Hello everybody, I'm Susan Alvarado. Welcome back to Legal Action, a public interest program sponsored by the DuPage County Bar Association designed to bring you timely information related to important legal topics and to help each of us better understand our legal rights and privileges. Today, we're here to discuss the very important topic of domestic violence. Did you know that an act of domestic violence occurs in our country every 18 seconds? Problems with domestic violence and abuse between partners and family members frequently happen regardless of race, economics, or educational background. So we've assembled here today a panel of professionals to help us understand our rights. First, I'd like to introduce Amy Milligan from the DuPage County Family Shelter Service. I'd also like to introduce the Honorable Beth Sexton. Judge Sexton is an associate judge here in the 18th Judicial Circuit in DuPage County. Judge Sexton has presided over innumerable court cases involving domestic violence, and we'll gain important insight from Judge Sexton. Finally, I'd like to introduce Attorney Thomas Else. Tom is not only a resident of Naperville, but he's also the president of the DuPage County Bar Association. And among his many other responsibilities, Tom was very instrumental in developing this very important program today. Tom concentrates his law practice in matrimonial and family law, as well as civil litigation and bankruptcy, and his offices are located in Wheaton. Later in the program, we will be joined by Chris Kacherubis, DuPage County Circuit Court Clerk. Chris will give us some practical advice about how to address this problem with the help of the Circuit Court Clerk's office. Thank you all for coming. I think our viewers are extremely interested in this topic. And as I said in the intro, domestic violence issues cross all racial, economic, and educational lines. Yes. Amy Milligan, perhaps we could start with you. Can we just talk about some basics, Amy?
Yes.
Can you perhaps give our viewers an idea of how domestic violence is defined?
Yes. Domestic violence basically can be defined as abusive behaviors, which may be physical, emotional, mental, financial, verbal, behaviors which are designed to gain and maintain power and control in a relationship. And with domestic violence, of course, the relationships we're talking about are marital, dating, or other kinds of family relationships.
That's an interesting and important point, isn't it, Amy? That is that the relationship, it has to be a relationship, a dating relationship or a family relationship.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes, domestic violence is between intimate partners or other family members. And indeed, too, we're also talking about not just spouses or dating partners, but potentially parents and children or other family members, siblings, and things like that.
Tell me a little bit about the organization, Amy. First of all, why don't you tell our viewers exactly what services you provide?
Okay. Well, Family Shelter Service has been in operation in our county since 1976. Our service started when a group of volunteers was looking at the issue of homelessness in DuPage County, and they realized that a large number of homeless women and children were without a home because they were fleeing domestic violence. So the organization began with a hotline, and we have maintained that same 24-hour hotline number for the entire 32 years now that we've been in service here. Eventually we expanded to include emergency shelter for women and children who are leaving abusive relationships. Prior to obtaining shelter facilities, we actually sheltered people within the community through a system of safe houses. But we eventually did acquire 3 shelter locations, and our shelter locations now are currently located in Glen Ellen, Downers Grove, and Naperville. We also have an extensive counseling program. We offer individual and group counseling, family counseling for adults and children. And we offer legal advocacy services. We have an office at the DuPage County Courthouse, and our court advocates assist petitioners with completing order of protection forms and guide them through the court process.
Very helpful. So how would our viewers contact your organization then, should they need your help?
The best way to contact our organization, really for any of our services, is by calling our 24-hour hotline, which is 630-469-5650. That is a 24-hour number and is answered 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, by a trained counselor who can help the caller assess their needs and direct them then to the best service that we have to offer for them.
That's wonderful. Is there a website addressing?
Yes, there is. Thank you for reminding me. There is a website, which is www.familyshelterservice.org.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Very helpful. And, you know, I'd like to turn now, if we could, while we're talking about family shelter services and some of the legal advocacy that you guys do provide here. Judge Sexton, I wonder if you could give us a little insight perhaps into what you're seeing in your courtroom. Perhaps first of all, could I ask you, how long have you been sitting in the domestic violence courtroom in DuPage County?
Thank you. I've been there right now for about 6 months, but I was there for a full 3 years about 5 years ago. We have 2 full-time courtrooms dedicated to issues of domestic violence. One is in the misdemeanor division, which is where I sit, and there is a full-time courtroom for just the orders of protection, both the criminal and the civil ones. What's different about the criminal misdemeanor is that these is the relationship, as Amy noted. This isn't stranger danger. These aren't stranger crimes. Mm-hmm. Everyone in this courtroom has a relationship, and it gives it a very unique and sometimes difficult feeling, because people don't show up. They go and they file their cases, they want to prosecute, and then they realize, I don't have enough money to live on my own. What will happen to my children? I don't have a job. So we have a hard time sometimes with our victims, and it's a very unusual courtroom in that other courtrooms, they're very anxious to prosecute. Right. So we have to facilitate everything we can for the victim. And we do that through a coordinating council. Our courtroom's very active with law enforcement, family shelter, social work agencies. Everyone keeps everybody advised of what they're doing and how we can make this a better courtroom for victims, because victim safety is always our highest priority.
Yes, I happen to have seen that myself, having done some work in your courtroom. I find it very interesting, and I do think it's fair to say that we do support people who come. Is that right?
Absolutely.
That
yes.
There are resources available, that's why we're here. Is that not right?
And that's one of the things that we have appreciated so much about being given an office space in the courthouse, is that it makes family shelter services that much more accessible to victims and to members of the public who are coming in who may not otherwise have known about our agency or known about the services that we provide.
Yes,
so.
Yes.
Sometimes they'll show up in the courtroom and I will refer them out
Yes.
back to their office before they come back to the courtroom.
Oh.
It gives them